Thanks to Artlist for sponsoring today's video. The Sony a7S II is a camera that surprised a lot of people 8 years ago. Between its low light capability and its 4K internal recording, it really gave the working professional an opportunity to shoot high quality images in a small compact camera size. But how does this camera hold up in 2023? Let's find out. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed that stupid little video I decided to make. The reason I decided to make that was because instead of just giving you like camera images and samples of what the footage looks like, I thought it'd be fun to like put something together, even though it was absolutely ridiculously stupid. Oh. Before I start talking about my experience with the camera though, I want to talk about the uniqueness of the Sony a7S II. 8 years ago when it came out, I really think it took the mirrorless market to the professional world. It gave people the opportunity to get really high quality footage in a really small compact size camera. And moving forward 8 years later, I can't even think of a camera manufacturer who is still making like a DSLR camera with a mirror in it. Like, is there any company who's doing it?
Hey, hi, hello, it's me again. I can confirm that no major camera brand is making a mirrored camera anymore. They've all switched to mirrorless moving here on out, so there's your answer for that. And now I want to talk about my experience shooting with the camera because there's some highs and some lows. So, okay, let's talk about that.
Hands down, the hardest thing that I experienced when shooting with this camera is the monitor on the back of the camera.
The screen is technically on. The gamma display, not helpful at all.
It is so dim, it's so impossible to see what's going on, and when you shoot in log, because the colors are all washed out, I couldn't even see what I was trying to frame correctly.
The workaround with that would be adding an external monitor to see during the day, but that destroys the whole form factor of it being really small. Autofocus has come such a long way since we've gotten this camera, and I'm realizing that after shooting with it. It's not something that you want to rely on. For instance, I've taken advantage of the Sony FX3 autofocus because I'm able to walk up to the camera no problem and it focuses on me, and I don't even have to think about it. But with this camera, you definitely have to think about it. So the way that I've been focusing is I use the single point autofocus. I punch in on my subject, I get that locked in, and then I lock it back off to manual focus because it seems to not be the most reliable. That's the problem with these older Sony cameras. I'm glad that they've come a long way, but you can use the autofocus, and it does autofocus on things that you want it to, but it is extremely slow compared to the different speed settings that you can get in the newer Sony cameras.
The battery life on the camera isn't as good as the newer Sony cameras because it's using an older Sony battery. It is a lot smaller in this smaller form factor, and I was able to get about like 45 minutes to an hour while recording. The benefit to the camera's batteries though is that they are really small. You can get extra ones, keep them in your pocket, throw them in your backpack, you don't have to worry about it. And if you're buying this camera used, it's probably coming with a lot of extra batteries, which is a huge plus. The recording caps out at 30 minutes, which is kind of funny because I totally forgot that older cameras have record limits. I think we're really spoiled nowadays with newer cameras not having record limits. So that's just something to consider, that you can only record for 30 minutes. The workaround that is to add an external recorder on the top, and you can run forever because it just runs something to like an SSD, not a big deal. Which brings me to my next thing, which is overheating. Now, it could be because that it only has a 30-minute record limit, but I've never experienced overheating on this camera. Let me know if you've shot with the Sony a7S II and you've experienced overheating, but I have shot in the middle of the day, middle of summer for long takes, and I've never had it overheat. I will admit the Sony a7 III I've shot with before, and I have had that overheat on me, but maybe just this camera is really good at heat dissipation? I don't know. You could shoot S-Log2 and S-Log3 in this camera, but because of its 8-bit internal recording, I would stick to something like an S-Log2. S-Log3 I've found is really washed out and flat, and when you try to push it in the grade, because it's 8-bit, it needs a lot more data than the camera actually offers. So I would stick to something like an S-Log2, bump up the saturation in camera, and you're gonna be able to get a really beautiful image when you shoot that.
So something that I totally forgot is that when you shoot an S-Log, the base ISO is 1600, which for shooting daylight, that's actually extremely bright. So if you're wanting to shoot at something like f2.8, you might need a stronger ND filter.
If you're like me when it comes to editing your videos, one of the hardest parts is finding the right music. And that's where I want to thank today's sponsor, Artlist. With Artlist, I'm able to find highly curated music and sound effects that perfectly fit the mood of my videos. In that short you saw at the beginning of the video, I was not only able to find some fun music, but most of the sound effects that you heard in the video were from Artlist. From the radio playing in the car, to the squeak of wiping the windows, even the bird leaving some residue on the windshield. Sound design is one of the best ways to enhance your film, and I love that you can go through a huge list of music and sound effects. It makes our job as editors much easier. And with the all-new Artlist Max, you're not only able to get highly curated music and sound effects for your videos, but you can get beautiful stock footage for any project. So if you're needing some kind of drone shot but you have no way to do that, Artlist Max is a great resource and an all-in-one platform for content creators. So make sure to check out Artlist if you're wanting to level up your videos. Thank you to Artlist for sponsoring this video and making it possible for creators like you and me to succeed. Now I want to talk about something that a lot of vloggers on YouTube want in a camera, and that is a flip screen. Where this camera does have a tilt adjustable screen, it doesn't actually flip out so you can see yourself recording. This is beneficial for a lot of vloggers, but I really think that this is super beneficial for the solo content creator who needs to be able to see their camera. When I was shooting that little short in the truck, I needed to have the camera on the back of the window. The problem was the camera was too close to the window that I couldn't actually see what was in focus.
All right, so this is so stupid, but the problem with the camera setup right here is because it doesn't have any kind of flip screen. I can't get the right angle to see what's in focus and what's not in focus. Right now we're shooting everything in daylight, which is fine and dandy, but really this camera is known for being a low light beast. So let's put that to the test. This is the Sony a7S II. Right now we're recording at 1600 ISO. And it's an S-Log2, so let's just go through the values and see how this camera holds up. Now we're at 4000 ISO, 6400, now we're at 10,000 ISO. This is at 16,000 ISO, and already what you're looking at on the screen is brighter than what I can see in person. Now we're at 25,600 ISO. This is 40,000 ISO. This is so funny how impressive this still is today. I can see more on the screen than I can in real life. I know this looks disgusting, but this is 409,600 ISO. Now I can actually see the light from the neighbor down the street, which is super creepy. This is still so crazy to me that I can see more on the camera than I can see in real life. And that tends to be one of the little magic tricks with this camera, which is why I think so many people like it. One of the reasons that I don't think people like this camera though is because of the Sony menus.
The dreaded Sony menus. So many people hate the Sony menus. They always talk smack on them. I've never had a problem with the Sony menus, because here's my thought process on menus when it comes to cameras. You get used to them. I would love to be able to give you a size comparison between the a7S II and the a7S III, but currently my a7S III is being worked on because I
think there was a big leap from the Sony a7S I to the a7S II because you were able to do 4K internal recording. You can do 4K internally, full frame, up to 30p within the camera. And if you're wanting slow motion modes, you can do that, but you got to switch to 1080 mode. Now, when you switch over to 1080, you can do 60p, which is still the full frame sensor, and you're still able to get that readout and get those really nice slow-mo shots. But you also have the capability of going into 120 on the camera, so you can go 120 frames, but there is a hefty crop within that. I think it's like a 1.5 crop.
The most important thing when it comes to a camera is the image quality, and I'm still really impressed on how well this camera performs today. The image that comes out of this camera is beautiful. Yes, you need to tweak the colors a little bit. Yes, there's some changes that you need to make, but if you can get your exposure and your white balance ready in camera, dude, this actually looks really good. The reason that I stick with the Sony cameras is because the amount of lens options that they give you, because they've kept the E-mount year after year and haven't changed it like other camera brands have, Canon or Nikon. You're able to buy lenses from years ago and still be able to put them on the newest cameras. They even use the E-mount on their cinema cameras, so you could use your stills photography lenses that you bought years ago for the E-mount and put it on an FX6 or an FX9. Not a lot of camera brands do that anymore, and I think that's really valuable because there's so many different third-party options for you as well. And if you're trying to get into the Sony market affordably, you can buy something like a $250 lens and then eventually graduate to the $2,000 lens if you want. But to be honest with you, my favorite lens that I shoot with is a third-party lens, and that's the Tamron 28-75. It's like $900 compared to the $2,500 24-70 from Sony.
This whole setup alone is still under, I think, $2,000, which is really hard to beat in today's market.
You can buy really affordable lenses, and there's so many different options for you, and that's a huge thing to consider. Now to answer the question, who is this camera for? And I think for somebody who's really wanting to take video more seriously, this is a really good beginner camera. I use this camera professionally for years, and I'm blown away with what it can do. And to have this as your first camera would be huge. Between the 4K internal recording, the ability to shoot 120 in slow-mo, 60 in slow-mo, have a log profile to shoot with, this would be a really good beginner camera, and you can get it for under $1,000. But to say that this camera is only for the beginner filmmaker is an unfair statement. I believe that you could pick up this camera today as an experienced shooter and create great results with it. If you're looking for a camera that can shoot 4K internally, have the capability to shoot in low light situations, and create a really beautiful image for an affordable price, I think this camera is for you. But despite what people even say about cameras, the goal behind gear is to be able to create the project that you're wanting to create. And if you have an 8-year-old camera and you still love shooting with it, keep shooting with it. You don't need the latest, greatest cameras, because the most important thing that you can be doing is creating the things that you want to create. And with that, that's all I have to say about this camera. I didn't have an exit plan.
Hey, if you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe for future videos like that in the future, because we would love to be able to make those for you. Obviously, you caught me mowing my lawn, so that's embarrassing. Like, who does that nowadays? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video.